Hi everyone, this is Sahid and I'm super glad to be back on board. Welcome to our channel, which is the channel where we discuss everything migration, infotainment, classic shows, LD lifestyles, and so on. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so immediately. Like and share our videos, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the notification so you have all our future videos. So where are we going today? What are we talking about? Today, we shall be talking about the writing module of the International English Language Testing System, which is called the IELTS. So, you would know that the IELTS is an exam that is used to measure, an individual's ability to listen, speak, or read and write. Basically, it is used for study or migration purpose. So, it is usually done to test the proficiency of non-native English language speakers. It is usually graded on a scale of 1 to 9. However, our focus today would be on the writing module. So the IELTS writing test is a module that many students really find very difficult because it is an exam that you need to write within 1 hour. So usually within the space of 1 hour, you would have to write an essay as well as a graph if it was an academic module. However, if it is the general training module, it would be an essay together with a letter that would be written in your task 1. So the task 2 is usually an essay. The IELTS writing test module varies depending on whether you're doing the academic test, which is usually for study purposes. The general test is usually used for migration purposes in general. So for the academic, you would have to describe a graph or a diagram in your task 1, whereas an essay would be for your task 2. In the general training, you would have to write a letter in your task 1, and there is an essay to write in your task 2. So the task 2 is usually worth more marks. In fact, it worth twice the marks of task 1. And your task 1, which I had said would be a graph or a letter. So the task 2 would usually, you would be expected to take 40 minutes to write the essay. Be expected to spend about 20 minutes on the graph or letter. So with a minimum of 150 words in your task 1 and 250 words in your task 2. Generally, there is a structure for each of these. You've got structures for this. So for the academic testing, you would have a structure for your task 1, which is usually having an introduction, an overview, then the body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. So in the introduction, you would usually have to paraphrase the question using synonyms. Whereas the overview, which would come promptly after, would have you generally write the overview of the key features and put them in a statement. So your body paragraph 1 would have you write all the details about the features in a logical way, mentioning some specific sentences that are visible in the graph or in the diagram. Whereas your body paragraph 2 would need you to write in details about the features in a logical way, giving more specific sentences about changes that took place with the time or location. So when talking about the task 1 the general training module, so what is the structure like? For that one, you've got it would usually start with a greeting, followed by the introduction or the purpose of the letter. There is a body 1, body 2, body 3. You would have an ending, as well as the sign off and your name. So for the greeting, it depends on what the question is. If the question is kind of a formal letter that is required of you to write, then you would have a greeting starting with something like dear sir or madam. However, if it was a semi formal letter, then you could write dear Mr. whoever the person is. So if it was an informal letter, like you writing to your friend or someone you know very well, then it could be like a casual greeting like hello John or hi John and stuff like that. So the introduction or purpose is the reason why you're writing the letter. So you need to put the reason why you're writing the letter, as well as, and that will be followed promptly by the body one. So in your body one, you would have, usually in the writing, in the letter that you need to write for your task one, there are always 3 questions. So the 3 questions, you would be answering them in bodies 1, 2, and 3. So the first point would be about the first question. So, and that is why in body 1, you would have to write about the first point with details. In your body 2, you would have to write about the second point with details. And that is you answering your question number 2. Body 3 would mean that you're writing about the third point with the details. And that is you answering your last question, which is the question number 3, in your task 1 of the general training. So in the ending, you would have to give, form of thanks, like thanking the person in advance for their assistance. If you were writing a letter to an official, say in the government office, then you might be writing just to thank them ahead of, their response, to be sure that you're getting something positive, or, what have you. If you're writing to a friend, then you could be thanking the friend in advance just to be sure that you're getting a very positive response from such friend. And your sign off would be you putting an example such as yours faithfully, was in a formal letter, or yours sincerely, depending, or sincerely yours, as the case may be, depending on the context of what you're writing. Then you put your name. So let's go on to the task 2. In task 2, the essays are usually of various kinds. The essay could be a problem solution question. It could be an agree-disagree question, which would be, also, which could also be in the format of positive, negative development question. Or thirdly, it could be discuss both views and give your own opinion. Finally, it could also be advantages and disadvantages question, and it would request you also to give your own opinion. So there are various types, but these are basically the 4 main types of questions that you would have in your task 2, which is the essay. So going ahead with the task 2, there is also a structure. So the structure is how you are expected to write your task 2 essay for you to be hitting your target, which is very close to the band 9. So the introduction would have the background statement, which is the topic. You would have to reward the prompt, which is you trying to, write whatever questions that whatever question they've asked in another way. You're trying to reward the prompt. And also the thesis statement, which is you giving your own opinion regarding what has been asked. So in that introduction, you've got a background statement, which is the topic, the task, and give your own opinion. Then body 1. In the body 1, you would have to discuss the first view. So if it was a problem solution question, then this is where you talk about the problems. If it was an advantage disadvantages question, this is where you talk about the advantages. If it wasn't, whatever it is, so this is where you talk about the first part of your discussion. So you give your first point, you give an example, an explanation, because usually they would also ask you, you give an example, or based on your experience, you should give whatever you have encountered. So the second point would also be given, so you can put an example together with that, as well as an explanation. So usually you would have a minimum of 2 points that you're writing with examples and explanation. The next one would be your body 2. And in that you will be discussing the second view. So if it was a problem solution, so this is where you talk about the solutions to all the problems you had earlier stated. And if it was an advantage disadvantage, this is where you talk about all the disadvantages. And, as it applies to all the other ones as previously mentioned. So you also give a first point with an example and give the explanation. there is a second point as well that you're expected to give, and the example and explanation. Then finally, you're expected to conclude. So in the fourth paragraph, where you're concluding, you would have to conclude and summarize what you've written already, which is based on what you've discussed generally since the beginning. So you're not putting anything new. Then you have to restate your opinion, as you have stated in the introduction. So you have to restate that. And you give your final thought on the entire thing that you're discussing all day. And that is a succinct, task 2 written. So let's go ahead and see what are the key things that you need to have in your writing to achieve a very high band score. So because IELTS has got a band descriptor which they use in marking to really know how an individual should be graded and where the individual belongs when it comes to the band scoring. There are band descriptors around task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range. So basically, under the task achievement, they're looking at the information and the idea. And under the coherence and cohesion, they're looking at the structure and the organization of the write-up. Whereas in the lexical resource, they're looking at the vocab, and which is generally looking at your vocabulary, how you've applied all that in your writing. And finally would be your grammar, which would be the major part of the grammatical range. So for a band 9 or close to a band 9, for the task achievement, it is expected that all the requirements of the task are fully and appropriately satisfied in your task 1. So be it a graph or a letter, it is expected that you've fully answered all the questions that you've been asked. And when it comes to the coherence and cohesion, you're expected to have, you're expected to have used well the cohesion in such a way that it, the write-up you've had, it has very few errors. So, and whoever is reading your write-up can follow religiously, effortlessly, without missing words. They don't have any issues at all understanding what you've written up. So, and as the case is, you would also have very minimal errors in that write-up. So for the vocab, it is expected that you have a very full flexibility and precise use of words that are really evident within the scope of the write-up that you've had. And you're using also a wide range of words and vocab accurately and appropriately where they're expected to be used, with very minor errors with spellings, and you have very minimal, extremely rare way of miscommunication, as the case may be. So finally, for the grammar, they're basically looking at the structure within the scope of the write-up. They're looking at the punctuation and the grammar, whether they use it appropriately throughout the write-up. And of course, they're expecting very minimal errors in the write-up generally. For task 2, this is also similar to what we've mentioned early on. You have a very clear, fully described write-up that you've had, appropriately answers all the questions, and the ideas are really pretty relevant, fully extended, well supported with all the points that you've raised, and that is what they're looking at under that. Coherence and cohesion, they're looking at the message can actually be fully understood without really sweating, and also that rarely attracts any attention in terms of maybe there are errors in what you've written up, or not. The paragraphing is skillfully managed, it's spot on, no issues at all. And when it comes to the so for the lexical resource on task 2, basically you're looking at how you have used your vocab. Like I said, pretty much similar to the task 1, minimal errors as well expected, and grammatical range is no different. Punctuation, how you've used your grammar very well, minimal errors in your communication, and all of that. So if you are looking at that in putting it into context, so in your task achievement or task response, they're looking at how you have appropriately or accurately or relevantly answered all the questions and fulfilled the requirements set out in the task. All the bullet points that are raised in the questions are fully covered and clearly covered as well. So you have a comprehensive purpose and tone in your write-up. So the tone also would say that, say for instance, if you're writing a letter, you are using a formal tone for a formal letter. And you could also be expected to use an informal tone in an informal letter. So the appropriate format is used, and also that's where the structure comes in. And also you've done the 150 to 250 words minimum for task 1 and 2 respectively. Coherence and cohesion, they're looking at your use of linking words, how you've linked the information appropriately, ideas and the language you've used, how fluent you are with the message that you've passed across, the overall clarity that you've provided, and also the logical way that you've connected everything that you used in that write-up, including all the conjunctions and all of that. Logical sequencing and paragraphing is pretty much crucial. So lexical resource, that is basically looking at the correct spelling, use of a wide range of vocab, and sophisticated or natural way, among others, including the use of phrasal verbs and other. So for the lexical resource, that includes the correct spelling, how you're able to use a wide range of vocab, your sophisticated and natural way of putting all this right up together, the use or the inclusion of phrasal verbs, idiomatic expression, uncommon words or advanced language use, spellings, and so on. So for the phrasal verbs, we're looking at things that you are using an idiomatic phrase consisting of a verb and another element, typically an adverb. Sometimes it's a combination of both, where you use an adverb or a preposition or a combination of both. So examples include, as it's been written here, things such as show up, put off, set up, act on, turn down, call off, and so on. Those are phrasal verbs. So it is also expected to be seen in your write-up, idiomatic expression, which are kind of figurative, they've got figurative meaning, conventionally understood by native speaker. So examples include things such as a matter of fact, or due to the fact that, and so on. Also, there are some advanced language that they expect you to do write-up in your IELTS, which include instead of you mentioning something like environment, then you should put it as neighborhood. Rather than say things such as trees in my area, you can just say nature, and advanced level language like that. So you should be putting all of this in your write-up. Spellings are pretty crucial. Ensure you're getting all your spellings spot on. Lastly, when it comes to the grammatical range and accuracy, this is the part where you have to pay very good attention to punctuation, use of a wide range of structure with full flexibility and accuracy, use of a simple, compound, complex sentences, present, past participle, relative clauses, and so on. So starting with the punctuation, so this is kind of you ensuring that wherever you've got to put a full stop or a comma and all that, you're doing that. It's that simple. And it can be very costly. You need to get all of this, as simple as it is, put it in there. All the commas, all the full stops. Simple short sentences, which are more or less referred to as clausal sentences, they usually would have one main clause. So this usually have just one main clause, and there are various simple sentences, very short one you can put in your write-up. Examples are just given here, like depending on what you're writing, Andy and Jack play tennis every evening, and just any simple sentence as the case may be, so it doesn't matter. Compound sentences, these are the ones that have got at least two independent clauses that can be combined with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So usually you would have something that is putting them together like a both, like an and. So you can see an example that says he completed his literature review and created his reference list. So this inclusion of the and, A and D in this is already making this a compound sentence. So, and these are things that they're looking for, both and stuff like that, that would be, be able to have a coordinating conjunction combining words or two independent clauses together. Complex sentences, this is when you have at least one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. So in this you would have words such as although, because, since, while, if, and stuff like that. So these words are going to make sure that you have already put in a complex sentence. So whenever you use the word although, because, since, while, then you already have that. An example is already provided. Because he organized his sources by theme, it was easier for the readers to follow. So it was easier for his readers to follow. Others include the present, past tense, past participle. So it is expected that you use these tenses that are, these are expected because, for instance, a present tense, a past tense, past participle, so they expected of you to be included in your write-up. So typical examples are already given: tell, told, give, gave, given. So as long as you've written something that is in present tense, it doesn't need to be exactly these examples. So as long as you've written something that is in past tense, you've written something that is in past participle or something similar to that, then you're already on your way to having a very good and high band score. Relative clause, these are words that really connect ideas by using the pronouns that relate to something previously mentioned and allows the writer to combine two independent clauses into one sentence. So, and examples include whenever you have the word when, which, whose, who, where, and stuff like that, then you have already had a relative clause. The example is, I want to live in a place where there are a lot of flowers, which that tells you already had a relative clause. Modal verbs, these are auxiliary verbs that express necessity, likelihood, or possibility. It is usually used to refer to the possibility of something happening, or like uncertain action that might happen in the future. So whenever you use the words can, could, may, might, would, shall, ought to, seems, appears to, and stuff like that, then you already have your modal verbs included in your write-up. Finally, infinitive, we've got the infinitive words. So for the infinitive words, these are just words that have in them ing. So these are called your ing words. So as long as you have your ing words, anything having the ing at the back, then you already have an infinitive word included in your write-up. So if you have all of this included in your write-up, I can assure you that you're getting ever closer to an 8+ band on your writing. So as mentioned, you need to pay attention to the band descriptors, which is what is used to really assess what you've written, and that is exactly what we have reviewed here. And that brings us to the end of the review of today's IELTS writing module, where we're looking to prop you up to the band 8+ level for your writing, with the academic or the general training. So in our next video, we'll be giving you typical examples of how to put all of this that we've talked about here into context, and how you can see that in real examples, and put all of this together into that, and you will be seeing all the examples where we would have applied all this. Thanks very much for your rapt attention. Don't forget to like and share our videos, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the all important notifications so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And I'll catch you soon again. Thank you and bye-bye.